said pick some from the zeitgeist. I knew that book's gonna piss you off though.
This is the Foxville Court. What's that?
This is the book I was telling you about that is self-published.
I'm gonna pick one more. This is fun. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Nada and this is a little corner of the internet where I talk about literally whatever I want. Today's video has been a few weeks in the making and I'm really excited about it. I had been seeing for a while some videos of people basically being like, my friend picks my TBR jar, stuff like that. I really wanted to do it. And I have a friend who is super up on the trends for like new books that are out and like all the books that the people are talking about, and who is also incredibly chaotic. So I said to myself, why not ask this person to make me a TBR jar and see what comes out of it? So that's what I did. At the beginning of this video, you should have seen us in the park outside picking the books out of the, it's not quite a jar, she gave me a gum case that no longer has any gum in it. And in this video, I'm going to go over the list of books that I will be reading for the month of January that I picked out of my TBR jar, and also telling you the synopsis of the books. Get right into it. If you like books, if you like reading, if you just like my face or anything that I've had to say so far, please consider subscribing to this channel. Again, I make videos about literally whatever I want. Sometimes that's books, sometimes that's movies, sometimes that's me ranting about pop culture, but it's fun over here, if I do say so myself. Please also consider giving this video a big thumbs up. That really helps me to find other people who might be interested in my content. And let me know what your January TBR is in the comments down below. The first book that I picked out of my TBR jar was My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh. This book alone should prove the point that I have been looking at so many books this year. I've been looking at so many books over the past few years and just not reading them. This book came out, what year? In 2018. And if you're on the internet, you've probably seen the cover before. It's very arresting. There's something about it that's just really appealing. It's like the pink font, the Jane Austen. So it's Portrait of a Young Woman in White by some old-timey painter from the 1700s. This is a book by Ottessa Moshfegh. I've read one of her short stories before. I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of dark. It was about like a high school teacher who's like an alcoholic and is super drunk in the classroom. But My Year of Rest and Relaxation is set in New York City in 2000 and 2001 and follows an unnamed protagonist as she gradually escalates her use of prescription medications in an attempt to sleep for an entire year. Oh, I don't know how I feel about that. That might be triggering to me. A bitch with a documented history of clinical depression. Interesting. Maybe that's why I've never read it yet. I picked it out of the jar, so I have to read it. I'm gonna probably try and get the audiobook because I can't force myself to read words that don't interest me, but I can force myself to listen to words that don't interest me. I'm not super excited about encountering this, but I'm a plot girly. I love plot. I love when things happen in books. So I guess we'll see how I feel about it at the end of the month. The next book that I picked, I'm so excited about, and I can't wait to read it. It is Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. Like I said, my most chaotic friend made this jar for me. She's also the person who told me to read A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Okay, so Crescent City. Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas is apparently a sprawling fantasy series that I don't care about. She has like 92 different fantasy series on the go right now. And I'm like, when are we gonna finish any of them? Like, we're still waiting for the 6th ACOTAR book, the 5th full ACOTAR book. It's giving George R.R. Martin, but like he's not really writing anything else. He's just like refusing to write Game of Thrones, you know? Crescent City, I'm only obligated to read the first book, thank sweet Jesus. And I also had tried to watch a Carrie Can Read video where she breaks down the entire plot of Crescent City. I had no fucking idea what she was talking about. I could not hold on to a single word that was coming out of her mouth. My brain was refusing to process the names, the places, the character relations. And it's not because she was explaining it poorly. At least I don't think so. I could not, for the life of me, understand what was being expressed in that video. And it makes me even more afraid to try and read the book series. Okay. So the first Crescent City book is called House of Earth and Blood. Bryce Quinlan had the perfect life, working hard all day and partying all night. That sounds like fucking hell. Until a demon murdered her closest friends, leaving her bereft, wounded, and alone. When the accused is behind bars but the crimes start up again, Bryce finds herself at the heart of the investigation. She'll do whatever it takes to avenge their deaths. Hunt Athalar is a notorious fallen angel, now enslaved to the archangels he once attempted to overthrow. His brutal skills and incredible strength have been set to one purpose, to assassinate his boss's enemies, no questions asked. But with a demon wreaking havoc in the city, he's offered an irresistible deal. Help Bryce find the murderer, and his freedom will be within reach. As Bryce and Hunt dig deep into Crescent City's underbelly, they discover a dark power that threatens everything and everyone they hold dear, and they find in each other a blazing passion, one that could set them both free if they'd only let it. I feel like Sarah J. Maas is the Christian girl Autumn of romantasy. It's like the most basic white heterosexual plot points with like maybe a person of color thrown in there to spice things up. We see you, Lauren. We see you, Brittany. We see you, Courtney. We see you, Rhonda. Okay, we see you, Tasha, in that Christian girl Autumn photo, all right? That being said, I am an avid watcher of the television shows. Law & Order SVU, Law & Order Criminal Intent, and Law & Order Organized Crime. So there could be something for me here. I love a mystery, especially a murder mystery. There's probably more for me here than there ever was going to be in the ACOTAR series, because I like fairies to be interesting and not naked all the time. That's just me. That being said, I am a bit confused by the trend of stories about archangels that don't really deal in the Abrahamic religious origins of that. Like, if archangels exist, does that mean that God exists? And if God exists, does that mean that Satan exists? And if Satan exists, does that mean that that's the evil power that they end up fighting at the end? Or is this just completely divorced from religion, and archangels are basically just like gnomes or some sort of mythical creature in this world? I have questions. I guess they'll be answered by the end of the month. Dear God, I'm sick to my stomach. Okay, so next up we have As Long as a Lemon Tree Grows, and this is by, oh, I don't know how to say that. I'm going to say it as best as I can, and if you can correct me in the comments down below, I would really appreciate that, because I always want to pronounce people's names right. But this is by Zulfa Kachu. So, Salama Kassab was a pharmacy student when the cries for freedom broke out in Syria. She still had her parents, her big brother. She still had her home. She had a normal teenager's life. Now Salama volunteers at a hospital in Homs. Please correct all of my pronunciation in this. I will greatly appreciate that. Now Salama volunteers at a hospital in Homs, helping the wounded who flood through the doors daily. Secretly, though, she is desperate to find a way to get out of her beloved country before her sister-in-law Layla gives birth. So desperate that she has manifested a physical embodiment of her fear in the form of her imagined companion, Kof, who haunts her every move in an effort to keep her safe. But even with Kof pressing her to leave, Salama is torn between her loyalty to her country and her conviction to survive. Salama must contend with bullets and bombs, military assaults, and her shifting sense of morality before she might finally breathe free. And when she crosses paths with the boys she was supposed to meet one fateful day, she starts to doubt her resolve in leaving home at all. Soon, Salama must learn to see the events around her for what they truly are. Not a war, but a revolution, and decide how she too will cry for Syria's freedom. Is this gearing up to be a sad month? Like, am I going to be crying with every book that I read? Oh. I don't know a lot about the Syrian revolution / civil war. I don't really know what the term for it is. I haven't read much about it, mostly because it makes me sad that some of the oldest places in the entire world are being destroyed by neoliberalism and Western greed. I'm excited to read this book. I'm excited to see where this goes, and I'm sure there will be sad moments in it, but hopefully it won't just be like super depressing. So next up we have Babble by R.F. Kuang. Babble is another book that I've seen for a long time. I've seen a lot of R.F. Kuang books in general, and I've always been intrigued, but then I watched With Cindy's video about Yellowface, and I was like, wow, there is a really under-discussed element of like racial politics and the like disadvantages that people of color can have in any type of workforce, which is that like people who already have wealth and class privilege but are people of color have a level of access that the rest of us do not. I don't want to say that that video completely put me off ever reading an R.F. Kuang book, but I do think that I will approach them from a level of understanding better. So Babble is the 2022 novel of speculative fiction by R.F. Kuang. Babble is set in an alternate reality 1830s England in which Britain's global economic and colonial supremacy are fueled by the use of magical silver bars. Their power comes from capturing what is lost in translation between words in different languages that have similar but not identical meanings. Silver bars inscribed with such match pairs can increase industrial and agricultural production, improve the accuracy of bullets, heal injuries, and more. To create and harness this power, Oxford University created the Royal Institute of Translation, nicknamed Babble, where scholars work to find match pairs. The plot is focused on 4 new students at the institution, their growing awareness that their academic efforts maintain Britain's imperialist supremacy, their debate over how to prevent the Opium War, and the use of violence. I don't care about this. I read Ninth House last year, and this feels like a very similar exploration of what it's like to exist as a person from a subaltern. Look that up. Use that in your next Scrabble game. Background, while also being in the midst of this environment or institution that is all about like entrenched wealth and status and furthering entrenched wealth and status. And that book doesn't explore that aspect of it very well. And that is honestly the most interesting aspect of the book to me. I'm not very optimistic that this book will explore those themes in a way that is honest or appropriate, because at the end of the day, my belief system at least is that like we can't change these systems from inside. You submerging yourself into this system and sucking all the privilege that you can possibly get out of it, and then using that privilege to reach a hand out to a select few people who you can help isn't going to change the fact of systems of oppression existing and massive institutions like Oxford, Yale, these old colleges that are housed in centers of imperialism like the United States and Great Britain, and also like Europe, Australia, all of these places. It's not going to change the fact that these institutions support the structure that you're trying to break down. So you almost have to, if you do want to interact with it, take what you can get from it and then cut ties. But I'm scared that it's going to be like, oh, we can find a way to exist and flourish within this institution that is actively destroying the country that I came from. I'm not interested in reading books about people with colonized mindsets. Like, if I wanted to do that, I could get on the Shade Room. Not excited, but only time will tell. And I'm finishing all of these books. I'm not allowed to DNF any of them. So anyways, speaking of institutions of higher education, our final book is The Foxville Court by Nora Sakovic. What else can I say? What else can I say? If you know, you know. So this is the book that I have already read of this list of books. So checking one thing off my January TBR. This book is about a young man named Neil. Well, he's named Neil. He's on the run because his dad is a mob boss in Baltimore, and him and his mom escaped his dad's abusive sphere of influence several years before the beginning of the book. But Neil's mom has since passed away, and he's on his own. Now, Neil was introduced at a young age to the star of a very famous NCAA sports team. The 2 stars of this very famous NCAA sports. He starts playing the sport casually at high school, and he ends up getting recruited for it's basically Division I sports team. So he travels from Arizona, where he's living, to South Carolina to start playing for the team. And on the team is that star player that he had met when he was a kid. The team is made up, it's like a merry band of misfits. all of the people on the team have either been to juvie or they've been addicted to drugs, or they're family members of the people who have been to juvie and addicted to drugs. And the coach of the team is kind of trying to corral this ragtag group of underdogs into meaning something in the Division 1 of the sport. Why have I not said what the sport is? Because it's a sport that was entirely made up in the genius mind of Miss Norsakovic. It is called XE. It's basically like contact lacrosse. Like, that's the only way that I can explain it. It's like lacrosse, but you can hit people, not tackle necessarily, but like bump into them really aggressively. And Neil's foil, the guy who he spent his entire life kind of comparing himself to, is named Kevin Day, and he was a player on the top XE team in the entire country, but then a horrible accident left him injured indefinitely, and he ended up having to leave that team, and he joined the team of ragtag underdogs that Neil is a part of now. So this is Kevin's first season playing since his injury, and he's like, this is like if Lionel Messi blew out his knee when he was 17 and then left Barcelona and started playing for Madrid. Like, if you're a soccer fan, that's the analog here. That's all I'm gonna say. I've already said a lot. I've read this entire book. I will talk more about it in detail in the video that I make at the end of the month, summing up what I think about all of these books. But I'm never going to be the same person that I was before I read this book. Neda is gone. And the Neda that stands before you now is changed. I don't know if it's for the better. I don't know if it's for the worst, but I am going to leave this video here. I think too, at the end of the month, we will go over because this video is already long enough. At the end of the month, we will go over the rest of the books that were in this little jar and see what I could have ended up reading this month. If you've made it to this part of the video, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and make videos every week about literally whatever I want. Please give this video a thumbs up and comment down below. I really want to know about your January TBRs. I'm looking for new release fiction to read this month. So if there's any new release fiction that you're really excited about across the swath of genres, you know, I'm one of those that, you know, people who always say like, I listen to every kind of music. I'm one of those people who like reads every kind of book. I love nonfiction, fantasy, literary fiction, romance, young adult, like anything. So if there's anything that you're excited to read this year, let me know about it so I can check it out. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.